Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Iseman. Allie is doing some amazing work and is helping so many people, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, also be sure to check out the Shop tab, where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series and learn about the Unlock Wellness Project, which supplies a wellness bag to a child in need for each book purchased. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Iseman. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Iseman, and Allie is an actor, writer, and producer and has been doing amazing work, especially in the plant-based world. She's currently working with past podcast guest Bobby Sud on a vegan travel show called The Road Less Eaten, where she explores vegan cultures around the world. And I'm just excited to have her on to hear her story and just hear about the amazing work they're doing. So Allie, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm extremely excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, let's just jump into it. So kind of walk everybody through your backstory. So, kind of what your own health and wellness looked like at a young age and just how it's progressed to where it is right now.
Sure, absolutely. I'll tell you where I am now. I've been 100% plant-based for, the whole journey, I would say about 11 years. So 100%, about 9, because I was pescatarian and then vegetarian and now vegan. So I was raised, pretty standard, meat, veggie, starch on the plate kind of thing. My parents did their best to feed what they thought was a healthy diet. Low fat, no fat, sugar free, all the fun processed food you can think
Right.
of, and a lot of animal products. So when I was really young, I had extremely high cholesterol, and I was told it was genetic, and that's just what it was going to be. And that was the biggest sort of proof in the dairy-free pudding, if you will. For me, after going plant-based, it dropped without my even paying attention to it over 150 points or something insane. Like if I had any more good cholesterol, I'd have a lot of good cholesterol. I don't have a good pun for that, but that was sort of the biggest marker for me where I was like, okay, there's something not adding up here as far as what we're being told about our health. And how it connects to our diet and how we take care of ourselves and all that stuff. And that began a very self-motivated journey into expanding my understanding of health and wellness and fitness. I didn't grow up really with, my sport was actually horseback riding, which very much not vegan in a lot of circles.
Where are you from?
Originally from Maryland, so Durwood, Maryland, exactly as glamorous as it sounds. And very, very blessed to be from such a neat state as Maryland. It's very small, but it's got a lot of variety and it's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
And all of the seasons, but not very, very forward thinking, at least when I was growing up, as far as diet and lifestyle and all that.
Right. Yeah, I grew up in West Virginia, so pretty similar. It's pretty similar environments there. That's really cool.
Yeah, so you are familiar.
I'm familiar.
Yes. So it was very self-motivated, but I got really, really into health and fitness and diet and lifestyle and all the trendy keywords that you can think of, and it really began quite a transformation. I was the first person in my direct family that I know of that really started exploring these things. And it's been an interesting journey as it's developed within my own life to see how it's affected my family relationships and everything as well. At first, of course, there was resistance, not outright, but just, okay, well, you're doing your thing and we're going to do our thing. And that's a cute little, phase you're going through. And then when it just, years add up and they started becoming more curious, which has been a really fun thing to do. Like my dad will now text me, when he's eating at a vegan restaurant, he wants to share it with me. And this is somebody who's used to say, can we go out somewhere to eat where we can all eat, a place that has meat? I was like, well, everybody can eat at a vegan restaurant. So it's neat to see their growth and change through mine as well. So that's the long answer.
Yeah, no, I love that. No, it's very true. It's just like, the more consistent you are and the more you come from a loving place. Like I remember like the first Thanksgiving with like all of our family after I made that choice, like, they really didn't take it serious. Like, it's just like, and then, add a few more in and it's like, okay, well, we can have separate dishes and like everybody's super cool with it. It's just one of those things that just takes time and like just more understanding on what's going on.
Well, and of course, we all go through that phase. I absolutely, when you start learning about this, you're like, oh my God, I have figured it out. I have discovered the truth. This is the answer to everything. Fountain of youth, like health and wealth. Like, here it is, plant-based lifestyle, and I'm going to shove it down everyone's throat. And realizing that, is very hard to receive because it's very threatening to a lot of people and not the greatest way to really introduce new ideas. So, definitely had my period of time living on a soapbox, but sort of mellowed out and realized that me living my life this way and really being dedicated to it and having a lot of fun, and that was a better way to really show what it's all about and really interest and entice people.
Right. Did you have like, what were the biggest struggles that you had when you decided to do that, or was it pretty easy once you made that decision?
Well, it's definitely a journey. Like I said, I'm from Maryland, so my first solid food was crab growing up. Literally, seafood is a pretty big deal over there, and so I never thought I wouldn't have that because it was just so sentimental and a part of my culture. So it was like, okay, well, I'll be pescatarian, and I won't eat any red meat or poultry or pork or anything like that. I was a bad Jew. We ate pork chops growing up. So, but I was like only seafood, and it's fish or that's a whole other conversation. A lot of people believe they see that like sea animals as very, very different than land animals, and as far as their awareness and ability to receive pain and all that fun stuff. But that is a whole other podcast. But and so initially I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna still eat seafood, and that's something I can do. And I'm somebody, when I put my mind to something, my mom likes to say, even when I was a kid, like I would watch stuff for a while longer than most other kids, and then I would just execute. Like I didn't want to like try a bunch of times. I just wanted to do it.
Right.
And so that's sort of how it was for me. I was just done. And I told myself, starting out, once a year, I'll have something that's very sentimental. And that's the only time I'll ever eat meat, is that once a year. And so growing up, we went to the Renaissance Fair every year. So one of my favorite things, and we always had those big giant, it's now so like such a different experience to talk about it, but those big turkey legs. And so that was a very, very sentimental thing for me growing up. So I was like, okay, my first year, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, treat myself to that. And that's what I did. And I was looking forward to it. And I took one bite, and it just didn't even taste the same. And it didn't taste good. And it smelled pretty awful to me at that point. And I realized that the attachment to it was purely sentimental. I didn't need it. Right. The memory of being in that environment and sharing that experience with my family and friends, that's what I wanted. And so when I started understanding more of the sentimental aspect of food memory and taste and that sort of a thing, that started a whole other leg of the journey. And then I noticed about 6 or 8 months after that my body just didn't want seafood anymore. I'd had like a frozen tuna steak or something in the freezer and salmon or something for months and hadn't touched it, hadn't ordered it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm done with that. And that sort of was the progression. I just listened to my body at each stage. and my body stopped responding to dairy. So I let go of that. And I figured, well, if I'm doing that, I might as well let go of eggs and just sort of see where this takes me and how I feel. And it's been great. It's still going. So
I love that. No, that's super true. I mean, just all about the process. And Allie, what I know you're an actor, you're into filmmaking. Like, what got you interested in that? Was that like an interest at a young age as well? And how did all of that progress?
Yeah, I think we all get asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, that sort of thing. And I had a few things I wanted to be, but I was also so overwhelmed because I was like, I have to choose one. Why do I have to choose one? And then when I learned, and I loved movies and musicals, and we went to the theater when I was growing up. My mom, and I still go together. And when I made that connection, I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was the musical Oklahoma, the televised or the filmed version of it. And I somehow, at watching that, suddenly made the connection that these were people doing a job. That like it was like acting was a job, which meant I could, technically do everything. Right. So well, that's the thing I want to do, obviously. Like, I don't want to pick one. I'll pick that, and then I can do everything. And yeah, I didn't actually think I could. As I got older, I always felt very shy and socially awkward, and just didn't like attention in that way. And so I figured I would never really be able to do it. And actually ended up going to college initially for fashion design so that I could be in the costume wardrobe department. Always been fascinated with art history and how, clothing has sort of changed and grown over the eras. And actually in college ended up trying out for some student films and some local theater, and got bit by the bug hard. I'll always remember my first play. We finished the first opening night, and I came down, and I think my dad came to see me and a couple friends, and they were like, "Allie, your pupils are dilated." Like I was literally high from the live like connection that you experience as an actor with your fellow actors and the audience, and it's an experience that I have trouble really comparing to anything else, and I live for it, and I love it. That awesome. The power that storytelling has really in our culture, and it's the longest. I mean, we've always been storytellers. I like to say our fire has just gotten bigger,
No, definitely. Like, for you personally, do you prefer like plays over film? Like, if you had to pick one right now, which one would you pick?
Oh man. That's like, do you want, like dark chocolate or raw tiramisu? Yes. Gosh, I mean, my roots are in independent film. Mm-hmm. That's where I really started, and it's such a different experience from theater. It's hard to say. I love the reach that I work mostly in television at this point, both as a writer and actor, and I do love the reach and the sort of flexibility in television and storytelling. You can explore a character or a journey or a part of the world over years versus one film, but also a film can have such an impact on a global scale as well. I mean, it's a really incredible art and craft to be able to use to make a statement or, showcase something to the world that hasn't been explored yet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, the reach is just incredible. And like, being somebody that, you decided to go plant-based, you are more in that creative field. Like, did you notice any differences with your creativity and like just the projects that you wanted to work on once you started to learn everything you started to learn as far as like veganism and how it's affecting the environment and animals? Like, how did that impact just your whole creative process?
Mm. Well, I think, for me, it definitely started, excuse me, initially as like very much a diet thing. And I, didn't really make the connection as far as like all the lifestyle choices, as far as like products that you're using and, businesses you support and all of those elements. And so I have a natural curiosity. I think that's also why I'm an actor and a writer. I'm very curious, and I like to explore, and I like when a door leads to another door, and, I even have taped under my mirror in the bathroom. It says, "Stay curious." That's sort of my like motto for every day. And, I think they really sort of informed each other. My nature being that way, I I didn't even really like cooking before becoming vegan. And I sort of had to learn how to cook because there weren't the options there are now. I was in school in Philly and just, it was 10 plus years ago. So it was very different scene. And I learned how to cook, and I learned that I actually really enjoyed it because I was able to be creative and express myself that way as well. And I started having dinner parties, and they definitely like blended in together. And it's gotten me to be quite a bit more conscious as far as my choices. Like I have one project, a series that I've co-created that does involve horses. And I have been very vocal in all of our creative meetings that it's very important to me how those horses are treated, where they come from, and the schools, if you will, of thought that they're coming from. Like it's very important to me to support natural horsemanship if we're going to have any kind of horse actors a part of this. It's very important to me that it is as conscious a choice as possible, rather than just hire the quickest, easiest, what have you, trainers out there. It makes a difference.
It really affects like every aspect of your life. I mean, just like obviously it affects the projects that you want to work on, but then like you said, like it affects like how you want to treat maybe animals that are in the film. Like people don't really think about that, or like correlate how like making those decisions can affect like future projects, and like it just makes such a huge difference that people don't really think about. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, any practice that you have in your life that can help you be more mindful about your choices, to me, is a great thing.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's we don't think we're in a culture of separation in a lot of ways, a very isolationist culture where we are the center of our universe and we don't know where our food comes from. I mean, that's crazy to me. That connection is just so. It just isn't. And there's a lot of money put into making sure that it isn't.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, you understand why people have to disconnect, because like, I mean, we've been trained from a very young age to have those blinders up, right? I mean, you see like the commercials on TV and it shows the family like happily drinking milk or eating whatever meat they're eating. And it's like, you don't see the backstory of how it got there. And it's done very purposely. Or like the commercials that are like, oh, if your kid doesn't drink milk, like they're going to be deficient, or like not be meeting their size. Like, how like kind of messed up that is. Like there's commercials that are like, it's like a, I can't even think of what brand it is, but it has like this like little kid and he doesn't fit into like his like Halloween costume that's like supposed to be like his size. And then it shows him drinking like this drink, and all of a sudden he gained weight and he's like at the right size. Like it's just like stuff like that like it messes with you as a parent, because you're like, well, I don't want my kid to be deficient. Like I want them to be the right size. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's like,
yeah, that advertising, it preys on our fears, and advertising is storytelling.
Yep.
We see a great deal of it. And I hope, and I would like to think I'll be able to manage this. It's interesting. I get asked as, an actor, if you booked a McDonald's commercial, would you do it? And I've taken a lot of time to think about this. And my answer is yes, because the thing is, at least right now where we are, it's going to get made. That commercial is going to get made, whether I accept the booking or not. They'll hire someone else. It'll get made. Mm-hmm. So I want that money that's going to be paid to that person to be going to me, somebody who is operating in the plant-based world, and I can use those funds to further our agenda to work against that. And hopefully someday there won't be a McDonald's commercial.
Right. No, that's a very interesting stance. I mean, I honestly never thought of it from that point of view. And that's very true though.
Yeah. I'd rather operate within the system.
Absolutely.
I mean, it would be great to go live on some wonderful, sustainable island with a bunch of other plant-based people, and we all, we get rid of money and we just like, that sounds amazing to me. But I
currency is bananas.
I'm committed to having. So
right. No, most definitely. And like, we were talking about just different like films, documentaries, just in general. Like, were there any films that really affected you in a strong way? That I mean, I know everybody kind of sees all of like those documentaries and like it has a strong impact. Like, was there any like resources that really jumped out at you and really made a huge impact on your journey?
I guess, yeah. I mean, it was a defining moment in a sense because, so even before I was plant based and vegan, I my dear high school friend Priya and I started SETA, Students for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, at our high school, and I wasn't even vegetarian or anything at the time, so I got a lot of flack for that. And my stance was I'm on my journey, like just like you're on yours, and I'm still not okay with how the animals are being treated, and I'm trying to bridge that connection and help spread awareness, and I'm not there yet because I don't have the ability right now, I thought, to choose what I put on my plate. My mom was making dinners, like I'm in high school.
Right.
So there are some incredible, much younger people nowadays doing things that blow my mind, and I'm so impressed by. But at the time, that's where I was at, and so I knew what was going on, but I had never seen it. And there was a video going around. Gosh, I can't remember. I believe it was narrated by Alec Baldwin, if I remember correctly, and it showed what was going on. It was the first time I'd ever seen it.
Yeah.
So I got and I'm very visual. I mean, generally speaking, as humans, we're very visual creatures. And that just cemented it in me. And the next day I was done with meat. And that's sort of what I mean when I say I sort of have to watch something for a while and really like get it in my body, if that makes sense. Because when I do it, I'm done. Like that is it.
Was it like an Earthling type documentary?
Yes, it was short. It was very short.
Okay.
God, I wish I.
You know what? I think. Have you ever listened to, or I guess read? I listen to a lot of audiobooks, but Russell Simmons, his audiobook.
I haven't listened to his.
I think that same video was the one like he watched, because I remember I think he mentioned it, and it was short, and like it all sounds familiar. I could be totally wrong, but
yeah, it was one of the first ones like that. One of the first, if not the first, piece to showcase factory farming footage.
Man, yeah, those are, I mean, definitely hard to watch, but super impactful.
Yeah, seeing is a very different thing than knowing.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. Yeah, it makes it more real for sure. Yeah. And like, I know you're working on The Road Less Eaten, which is the vegan travel series, which is extremely exciting. And I know Bobby is involved with that too. First off, how did you two meet?
So we actually met through Bobby's twin brother, Adam. I was going through a phase of listening to a lot of podcasts, and dear Adam was so kind enough to give away his phone number on the Rich and Roll podcast. And I was like, oh, goodness, who is this dear human, and why would you do that?
Right.
We had a friend in common named Marcus. And so I actually ended up reaching out that way and contacting him because I liked a lot of what he had said. And he had, I think, just come out to LA. And I was like, let's meet up for lunch and, make sure we're both humans. And like, let's see what that's about. And so we just got along great and formed a friendship. And then when Bobby moved out here, obviously, met Bobby and was privileged to see his journey begin in that space. And I was so inspired just by their brotherhood and the way that they support each other, even when it's really uncomfortable. It just, I was like, these are some special guys. I definitely want them in my life. And then Adam ended up moving back to Austin, and Bobby stayed out here, and we all go to the same gym now. So Bobby had conceived this idea for this show, and I'm a bit of a travel bum, definitely I call myself a foodie, a vegan foodie. And he had approached me one day after a workout about this show, and we always joke about this because I turned him down. He's like, I'm interested in hosting this thing out. And I was like, I'm an actor. I work in the scripted space. It's not really my thing, but thank you. And he was like, okay, and he left. And then luckily, he came back about 10 minutes later. I was still stretching, and he was like, "Are you sure? Because like this is what I'm doing." And I was like, "You know what? Take the meeting, Allie." I was like, "Let's sit down. Let's talk about what this is." Because I unfortunately the vegan movement is most closely identified with a very small group of very loud, very angry people, which are important. It's all of the ways, all of the different types of activism that are taking place are important. And it's just unfortunate that that is the one type that is identified most often in the mainstream world as that's veganism. And I'm not interested. That's not my activism. Again, respect to everybody who is on the front lines doing that. Very, very important work. It's just not my personal activism. That's not the way I address these issues. So I didn't want to, be a part of a, very agenda heavy show and all that. So we sat down, we talked about it. I realized that we're very much on the same page with what this is. And the point is that it's supposed to just be fun. It's really about showing the light, showing that it's delicious and easier than you'd think and fun and exciting to be vegan all over the world. That you're not really missing out on anything. If anything, I eat more variety now than I did when I was eating meat. I mean, my world has opened up, not limited. And especially when I travel, everyone's always like, oh, it's got to be so hard. And I'm like, no, it takes me off the beaten path. I have to go look. And it takes me to places that are, not tourist heavy, and I'm meeting locals, and it's a much more, to me, authentic experience. I'm enjoying the local cuisine, everything that you would want to when you're traveling. And it's conscious, and it's, so when he shared with me that was really like the mission of the show, and, world peace, of course. Then, I was like, okay, this is something. Let's do this. Let's figure out what this is and move forward. So
I love it. What's the difference for you, like hosting versus acting? Like, how's that transition been for you?
Well, it's different. You're seeing, I know we live in like a celebrity culture. So a lot of, really big actors, people, think of them versus like the roles they're doing. But hosting is very much, you on camera versus these are roles. And so things are very directly associated with you as a person versus a job or a role or a project or something like that. So it's seen within the industry as a very different job, which is interesting to me because you have to, there's a lot of the same skills in there. But I definitely feel comfortable doing that because of a lot of my acting training and work. And, it's great because it's a subject matter I'm very passionate about and something that I really love and enjoy doing. So that definitely makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Is it harder or easier for you, do you think?
To host?
Yeah.
It's different. I mean, each has its own sort of set of challenges. It's akin to a type of journalism in that I like to do a lot of research as much as I can before I'm interviewing somebody or meeting somebody or going to a country or a restaurant or whatever it is. Just again, because I'm curious. But, as an actor, it involves a great deal of research as well, especially if I'm portraying somebody who was like really lived. And that's
improv on steroids, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, I trained at the Second City with improv, and so that's definitely come in handy. But like I said, it's subject matter that I'm generally pretty educated on and already enjoy. And, I travel, and I'd be doing it anyway. There just happens to be a camera.
Right.
So I actually get to talk to the chefs and all that, which is, makes my little nerdy plant-based heart very happy. So yeah, I mean, it's, I'd be doing it anyway. So it's nice to be able to share it with an audience as well.
For sure. No, I think what you guys are doing is amazing. Like, I know last time I talked to Bobby, I think you guys were still post-production, trying to figure out like exactly where you want to go with it, as far as, just putting it out there in the world. Like, have you guys decided any aspect of that, or is it done with post-production? Where is it at kind of on that?
So we shot basically what's like a 2-episode pilot on spec, which means, self-funded, doing it as a proof of concept so that when we're meeting, with the Netflixes and the who else, this is what that looks like. Would you like to see more, sort of a thing? So it's some of our materials. So we have what's called a sizzle, which you can find online on YouTube or Facebook. Just type in The Road Less Eaten. It's the only one. So that'll pop up and you can see what we're doing. And we basically use that along with what's called a deck, which goes into more detail on what the series would be like, who's involved, future episode ideas, future season ideas, et cetera, and also makes the case for why now is the time. We're moving out of this idea of veganism as a niche market. It's not. Netflix has been wise to this for a while. They've been smart enough to, buy Cowspiracy and What the Health and all these other great documentaries, but they don't have anything serialized yet. So, I can't say who we're meeting with, but we're meeting with a number of recognizable platforms in that space, and we're excited to find our home and see who gets this and who's on board with what we're doing, because it's really about finding the right partners, because it's going to be a family. We're going to be doing this for a while, so we want to be working with people who really see, of course, the mission underneath, but also that, this is marketable. This is a legit, show that's going to have a major impact and be very fruitful for whoever's involved.
Right. I agree. Like you were saying, like Netflix, I mean, they jumped on board with all of these plant-based documentaries. And I mean, I can't tell you how many views they all have. Like, I mean, that's probably some of their most popular documentaries. So whoever jumps on board with the show is, yeah, like you said, going to be doing very, very well, because it's going to take off. I mean, like the community is such a large one and so passionate, especially when you bring in a new show or documentary. It's just going to be really cool to see how it plays out.
And that's the thing. This show isn't, and those films even, they're not for vegans. I mean, it's an educational, those documentaries are highly educational and groundbreaking. And this show is really entertainment. It'll have, education and all that fun stuff snuck in there. But this is a show for everybody. It happens to be plant-based, but it's a foodie travel show or a voodie travel show. And it's meant to be accessible, and be very an easy in to seeing sort of the enjoyable side rather than, judging people or yelling at them for what they're doing. It's like, hey, want to try this? This is fun.
Right. I think it's awesome. And like, I know, you're doing a lot with that show. Is there anything like that you're working on in the future that you're just going to put out there and share with everybody, or just continue to work on this project and just continue just to put out a lot of amazing content?
Well, thank you. I have a couple of three different projects right now. Like I said, I'm more in the scripted space generally as a writer and actor. This is my only what's known as unscripted or documentary series. And I've got right now it's living as a short format series. It's a gender parody comedy series called Flip the Script. And we partnered with Women in Film on the first 4 episodes of those. And you can see them if you, again, YouTube or Facebook, Women in Film, Flip the Script. We worked with some incredible people like Lake Bell, Michaela Watkins, Amy Landecker, Rob Hubel, Jeff Garlin, just wonderful, wonderful actors came out. And it's basically bringing light to all these issues that we're seeing talked about media finally, and just the systemic nature of gender bias that we've unfortunately dealt with for generations, but it shines a comedic light on it. So again,
that's cool.
Making it more accessible so that it's not, yelling at people and pointing fingers. It's more just sort of demonstrating what's going on and hopefully entertaining and also accidentally educating.
No, that's cool. I'll put it like a link in the show notes. That way people can go check that out as well. And awesome. And like, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with the show that you're working on, and then also Flip the Script, and then anything else that you put out there.
Yeah, well, my website's got all the info and all my other shows that are currently in development. Flip the Script, for example, is also being developed into a half-hour comedy as well for more like a traditional television platforms or digital as well. But so yeah, you can just find me at my name, allieisman.com, and I'm Allie Iseman on everything. All the things.
Perfect. And then Allie, just closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's something that's been your biggest takeaway through your whole wellness journey. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
Well, I think I already said it. I would say it's sort of my daily mantra. Like I said, it's right there under my mirror in the bathroom. Stay curious. If you're given a diagnosis, if you're told this is what that is, period, be curious. Change that period into a question mark. Do a little investigating. If you're meeting somebody who has very different views than you, instead of meeting them with your views and having an argument, be curious. Ask them about why they feel that way. Where is that coming from? Questions are super powerful, and I think they only lead to growth and expansion and a much more interesting life.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfect, Allie. And just thank you so much for taking time to come on. I really loved having you. I'm just excited just to see this whole project come to light, because I know it's going to just do incredible.
Thank you so much. We're very excited. We can't wait to share it with everyone.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Allie. I love the work she's doing, so be sure to give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes. But you can also find them on my website as well at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's drkaseyjohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Allie's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Allie, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.